So this weekend is pretty much Vision Weekend the entire weekend. Back in the day, when I would get tips from pastors, made sense. They would say the big time of year was September. So I think like the first 2 to 3 years of our church plant, I wouldn't like plan all the big things till September. The problem is, the point is it aligns with the school calendar. Well, our school starts at the end of July. And so Vision needs to happen the end of July. So that's this weekend, it's Vision Sunday, but also we're doing like a core team leader staff rally today at Chicken and Pickle. And so this video is gonna be parts of, or the full thing, haven't decided yet, my leadership talk, just some encouragement to our team as we kind of enter into this new season. This is the new season of our generosity practice and all of the fall and winter activities. So yeah, hope you enjoy this. Comment below your biggest takeaway. So the first barrier to a healthy leadership, number one, is to go too fast. So this was honestly our biggest fear this last season of change. Anybody remember the date we moved in? What is the date we moved into the school? February 4th, 2023. That was a massive change. We went from Sunday night to Sunday morning. We went from the southern part of the city to the northern part. A lot of change. And so we kind of knew, okay, that was a lot of change. We can't change too much too soon. Let's kind of adapt. And we adapted. Anybody know when we moved to 2 services? What was the date? March 31st, 2024. So a little bit over a year. And I honestly feel like it was like just the right pace. I think we were ready for it. Me and Caleb met. We were really talking about it in December, trying to figure out when to do it. We were kind of determining it was either going to be Easter Sunday or fall. So like we would have been like this next Sunday, we maybe would have started. And so we decided that was the right pace. Now, what would probably be too fast for us right now in the month? 3 services, right? I think that'd be a little too fast. So leading, it's so weird. People just have certain timelines in their head. And so we have to honor it, but also kind of push it. And so Lord willing, we're praying this next month. So typically, if you look at the calendar, August is always another boost, another bump. I think we have the best systems we have in place. We have healthy leaders in place. And so we're praying this bump is a little more significant than years past and that we keep that bump, right? And so if that happens, we're going to be packed out for both services pretty quickly. So our next step would be to buy more chairs and maybe redesign what the cafeteria looks like a little bit more so we can get as much out of those 2 services as possible. But then at some point we go, hey guys, we have to make this. I don't know what that next step is, but we do have to think through, there is such a thing as too fast. And so I want you to think through your area of leadership. What is something that maybe you want to do? Pray about it. Maybe there are some decisions that are too fast. The second thing is too slow. Okay, so I think the biggest danger we faced on Sunday nights, we were there, I think, way too long. So we started, I don't even know the date. Who knows when we started to meet at Heart Cry on Sunday nights? It was like May of 2020. And then when did we get out? February 2023. So we almost spent a full 3 years on Sunday night. We didn't have much momentum there. I think we really built our leaders, which was great. I feel like the people who were with us were with us. But we really felt, okay, time's running out on this. We were getting antsy. What's the future? What are we going to do? And so we had to make a lot of sacrifices because there is such a thing as too slow. And I think we might have that temptation here at the school. Man, I don't want us to go too slow on still growing. So there is a too fast, there's a too slow. Todd Bolsinger has this quote: leadership involves a delicate balance between impatience and patience. Go too fast and people resist. Go too slow and they become complacent. That's the wisdom we're trying to navigate. And I think we've done a good job this past year trying to do both, right? Not too fast, not too slow. All right, the third one for a barrier to healthy leadership is too fearful. So leadership is scary. If it was easy, we would all do it. And I think one way to define leadership in one word would be courage. I think that's why God tells Joshua in Joshua 1:9, do not fear, be courageous, be strong and courageous. And so I think one of the biggest temptations we're going to have is to over-accommodate people. I think we can honestly go person by person. All of us have kind of faced that this past year. There's been somebody who's maybe even threatened our culture, kind of wanting to do things that are really us. And so we can't be too fearful. We can put our foot down and say, no, That's not how we do this. That's what we love you, but we're not going to put up with this or not do that. And so that's really, really hard. So it's really easy for us to be tempted to give in to people's demands. And so I think that's why we really want to make sure we keep leading with our cultural values. Does this mean, if doing this, are we still never stop learning? Are we never comparing? Are we never giving up? Are we never holding back? Or are we never alone? I think that's really helpful. Now, too fearful, I'm going to throw, Caleb doesn't know this. This is the one time I don't send my notes to Caleb. Me and Caleb in May, I had a moment in May where I thought, okay, summer usually has a dip in attendance, right? Just people are out of town. That's just what happens. We had just done the 2 services. The second Sunday of 2 services, third Sunday, it was like a really bad day and it made us a little nervous. And so we were kind of praying through, okay, do we do like a summer break where we go back to 1 service for like 6 weeks? And then we were like, okay, no. First of all, we're making that decision based off of fear of what we don't know is going to happen yet. Also, that would be too fast. We just went to 2 services. People are kind of getting used to it, and then to go back. So we were like, okay, leadership, sometimes making hard decisions. Sometimes it means maybe we'll have a few Sundays that are rough, but let's just stick to it. And we did that. We stuck to it, and I'm really grateful because God blessed us in 2 ways. One, we were always more than, we would have never just fit in 1 service. So God gave us a lot of people this summer. And 2, the Lord gave us a weekend off anyways with the floors. That was our biggest fear, kind of overdoing some things in the summer. Okay, so too fast, too slow, too fearful. Last one because it's hot. Too stubborn. All right, so in one temptation is to overly accommodate people. The other temptation is just to abandon people. Oh, you don't like my leadership, you don't like what I have to say, then forget you. As Jesus people, we can't do that either, right? And so I think more people equals more opinions, but also more people equals more problems. And so I think the temptation is for us to give up on people, people who disappoint us. So I just want to encourage you, people are disappointing. It's hard, but it's a humiliating task to be a leader. But I just want to say, you guys have done an incredible job kind of navigating this. I'm really proud of you. Here's what Todd Bolsinger says about that. Failure of nerve, which was he would be called too fearful. Being fearful is caving to the pressure of the anxiety of the group to return to the status quo. It is a loss of courage to further the mission and return to Egypt. He's talking about Moses, of course, right? After 6 weeks, the Israelites wanted to go back to Egypt. Then he says failure of heart, which would be too stubborn, is the emotional cutoff that occurs when the leader's discouragement leads them to psychologically abandon their people and the charge they have been given. Honestly, I think the kind of stuff we're leading, it gets hard. It makes us want to give up on people. And this is less of, hey, I just want to say bravo. I think a lot of us have had situations where we could have done these, but we've stuck together, we've stayed connected, we keep trying to make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And so I want to say I'm really proud. So I want us to highlight some cool things that God has done recently. So first of all is attendance. Okay, January 1st, 2023 to July 23rd, 2023, because that's, comparison last year to this year. What do you think our average attendance was? January to July of 23. So last year, what was our average attendance? What? 120? 90? 83. Okay? So that was in the middle of us going to the school, right? Okay, what do you think the same time, but 2024, January to July, what has been our average attendance? Jimmy can't answer because he counts every week, but it's still hard math.
I was too off on that one.
Oh, that's funny.
130.
130? What'd you say?
130.
130?
$1.
140. You were just over, so you don't get the prize. 140. All right, now summer of 23. Okay, what was the average of the summer of 2023?
$1.
You're like, I don't know, I wasn't there.
$1, Bob.
$1, yeah, you might win. Anybody? 75? It was actually 85. And we believe it's because we did the Revelation series. That really helped people kind of sticking around. So that was like not normal, because when we looked at the other, usually summer took a dip, but we didn't take a dip last year. I think last summer was like the beginning of where we really started to see favor and things piling up. What do you think the average has been this summer? So it'd be like the very end of May to now. What has been the average attendance? 145? 133? 162. So literally that's almost double from last year. It would be so poetic if it was double. I could have messed with the numbers and said 81, but the Lord will judge. All right, so last summer our high was 100 and our low was 70. This summer our high was 183, and our low, this was what I'm most encouraged by. What do you think our low was this summer? 148. That's barely any low. So like, what does that mean? We're consistent. Even in the summer, that's a really big deal. Okay, and me and Caleb actually put together a people list on Excel, and we're looking at the names. I mean, we just have people who are showing up every week, which might have been the biggest shift for us. Because in years past, we have people that show up once a month. It's hard to grow when there's once a month people, but when they start showing up every week, we can begin to do things. Okay, another things to highlight is our onboarding process. Okay, and so how many do you think are actively serving and attending groups out of the 162?
75.
70. I don't even know if I put this on. Oh yeah, I did. 70, okay? Now, that number is increasing as we speak. So like this next month, we have a lot of people in the onboarding process. But I just want to say to you guys, bravo, first of all, to the hosts. You're welcoming people in. Our groups are growing, and that's because you're making room, so thank you for that. Our team leads, you guys are training well. You're not cutting people off, you're letting them in. And so we actually have roughly 39 people who are interested to start actually either joining a group and or serving based off of our Excel doc. And so that's really encouraging. So we're about to increase a ton, which every time here's a trick me and Caleb learned. You take the number of people serving on a Sunday morning and you times it by 3.5, and that's what your average attendance will be that day. And it's stupid how close it's been. So the more we have people serving, the more we'll have people coming, the more we'll actually make disciples, okay? So let's talk about the teaching, because we're not just making attenders, we're making disciples. Here's some really cool things that have happened in our church. We did the hospitality series in February, right? And what was our big push? To have meals with saints, strangers, and sinners. How many ping pong balls do you think we've put in so far? It's only been 24 weeks since we told people to make the ping pong ball thing.
500.
500?
Aiming for what? 740?
We're aiming for 734.
734. I would say about 600.
580.
So this has been fun because usually I've been saying a number higher than what you've been saying, but not. I'm done asking. 400. So what that means though, we've averaged 16 meals a week. People in our church, 16 meals a week, having a meal with saints, strangers, and sinners. That's a really big deal. Me and Caleb have noticed the newer batch of people who come, they say the number one reason why they love Passion Creek, community. Like we care about each other, we eat meals together, we do life. It's not just a Sunday thing, right? So that is totally because of you guys. The other practice we've done is peacemaking. This has been such a blessing, but so hard. Our people are like redigging up their childhood trauma and processing. We've actually been on meetings where people are forgiving each other. It's been really cool. It's harder to put like on an Excel sheet how we're making peace, but let me just say like, and you guys here, we are doing that in like a major way, and I'm super proud of that. Also, we've been going through the book of Acts, right? So we're actually gonna be finishing the book of Acts in November, but that book has just been really good for us, just kind of become the church like we see in the New Testament. And then the last thing that I wanna highlight is we've been doing the Gospel Project for Kids. So we started a new curriculum this past year, and they're gonna go through the whole Bible in the span of 3 years, right, Julie? Yeah. And so they're in Genesis right now. In fact, a couple of Sundays ago, I know they were talking about Abraham sacrificing Isaac. And so super great. They're getting a whole vision. And here's what I love about the Gospel Project. Every single week, okay, this is Old Testament, but we're gonna point to how this points to Jesus. So they're not learning moralism. They're not learning how to earn their way to heaven. No, Jesus is the answer. So that's super cool. Here's some things we're looking forward to. Future teaching is generosity starting next Sunday. We're very pumped about it. Make sure you guys lean into it with your groups. We're gonna finish the book of Acts. December is Advent, which we do every year. We have a lot of things, exciting things planned for that. We're doing a vision series in January. I won't unleash what that is, but I'm very excited about it. Because what's the whole, this is seeing if you guys listen, what's the big vision for 2024 for our church? How to make friends and love other people.
Set the tone.
Yes, for our leaders, it's set the tone. Thank you, so you're not wrong. You're also not right. I'm just kidding. And then, so here's what's gonna be fun. February, we're gonna learn the practice of fasting, and it perfectly works because we're actually gonna do Lent this year. So it's gonna be a Protestant version of Lent. Don't worry, but we're gonna do Lent, and we're gonna talk about the 7 deadly sins leading up to Easter Sunday. So that's what we have already on the calendar for the rest of the year. Let me give you 2 principles to healthy leadership. Number 1, we set the tone with humility. I have never been more pushed this past year in my leadership when it comes to humility. We've had to really humble ourselves, die to ourselves in many ways, and we've seen a lot of fruit from it. But let me just tell you, it's hard. It's hard not just to come in and be a dictator or to come in and be fearful. Like to stay close, to stay in the way of Jesus takes a lot of humility. Philippians 2, Paul says to the church of Philippi, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look not to his own interests, but rather to the interests of others. To be honest, it's a big reason why you're here. You guys are humble people, right? But just keep doing it. Keep doing the hard work. It's humbling, but that's the way of Jesus. Now, I think here's the 2 biggest ways we can set the tone throughout this year, the rest of this year with humility. I think the first one is vulnerability. I think willing to admit when you're wrong is a key part of leadership. Honestly, we're about to do generosity practice. Our hope is that you do it. But also, it's okay for you on one of the weeks saying, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't feeling it, or I didn't give to anything, or you can like admit your vulnerabilities, right? Admit the L's. Like, I didn't do this well. I would even say in leading people, if you have an outburst, you go to that person, hey, I'm gonna be honest, that was wrong. I wanna say sorry. That's not representing of Jesus. Will you forgive me? We wanna be a church that actually makes peace, does the hard stuff, rather than just avoiding people after we have arguments, okay? So vulnerability, let's be free to admit when we're wrong, but also victory. I think it's okay to admit when you're right. I think it's okay to admit the wins. True humility knows your weaknesses and your strengths. 1 Corinthians 11:1, I don't think it's on the screen, let me see, nope. 1 Corinthians 11:1 says, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. We're hoping, even for generosity, which is a hard practice, we hope you are a doer of the word, you do a generous act, and we're giving you permission. Admit it, say, hey, actually this worked this week. I think sometimes our groups, we're afraid to say when it goes well, especially as leaders, because it looks braggadocious. Be vulnerable when you need to be, but also say, hey, I'm experiencing victory, Christ is doing something in my life. All right, last thing, we need to set the table with honor. So we set the tone with humility, and we as a people need to set the table with honor. Romans 12, Paul says, if you want to talk about leadership, love one another deeply as brothers and sisters, take the lead in what? Honoring one another, right? It's to speak to people's potential. This is honestly, I think, the new way I want to define how to honor people. What we do is we take time to look at their whole life, not just their holes in life. Every single person at our church has holes. They have issues. They don't do things well. Some, like your pastor's not administrative and looks at the fine print and thought this whole time we'd be indoors. But we're not, all right? But don't look at the holes and just say they're terrible people. Remind yourself, these people love Jesus. These people keep showing up. Like, find ways to find gratitude. And that's why I love our honor practice, because it forces you to think every person at our church is honorable. We're able to honor them. So I just want to encourage you guys, let us be honoring people. Let's lift people up and speak truth and just, speak praise. Like, hey, great job on that.
Thanks for watching this video. Comment below your biggest takeaway. Honestly, it wasn't the greatest setting. We were outside. It was supposed to be inside, so that hissing noise, if you hear it, it's actually the misters, which we were grateful for. I was shifting a lot because I, again, didn't love my environment. So that's ways that I can grow as a leader. What are ways you can grow? Is there takeaways from that teaching talk that you enjoyed? Thank you so much for going all the way to the end. You're the best. Subscribe, comment, like. I'll see you on the next one.